You there? Can you hear me?
Do you hear me?
Yes. Yes, I can hear you now.
All right. Let me get my thing set up. I'm just going to record it on my end, then I'll upload it to my channel, and I guess you do you.
Cool.
Yeah, me display capture. You know, I'll set up the. There we go. Trying to set up a little split screen thing, and now I gotta move this thing over here. Okay, all right. Then we're good.
Cool.
If you just want to say something, make sure desktop's picking up.
Alrighty, I should be back now. And hopefully that fixed those lagging. Alright, sorry about that, I was just trying to fix something with my stream there.
Oh, no big deal.
Alrighty, so, did you have anything you wanted to start off with, or?
Well, just the idea of I like that thumbnail preview of the of this debate stream. I like that. Just so you know, I'm starting on my end recording right now.
That's right.
So yeah, I just want to give you a heads up. But yeah, we talk about that. I mean, this may just come down to a difference of opinion, but you know, you didn't happen to see my video I did on there, right? The good ideas don't require force. You didn't see that one, did you?
Yes, I did.
You did?
I did. I think I skimmed through it a bit.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Because I don't like the idea, like, you know, bamboozling people, like, you know, we're coming at them like totally unawares out of left field, and all of a sudden they get stun locked, and it looks like bad optics. I don't like that. Or at least it seems really cheesy to me to do that to people in a discussion. But yeah, we could definitely start off that. But if you want to, I guess we could introduce ourselves first for our respective audiences, and then if you want to go ahead first, and you know.
Alright, well, my name's Liquid Zula. I do YouTube videos on anarcho-capitalism on YouTube.
Alright, and I'm a new socialist there. I do left-wing socialist style economic democracy, workplace democracy videos, raising awareness of those kind of videos on the YouTubes as well over at New Socialist Era. Also, if you want to follow me on Twitter at New Socialist Era, you can find me there too. And yeah, let's I guess get into this whole inconsistency claim that I put forward. And I guess if you want to start, you can start off first.
Well, I mean, if you're wanting to make a claim, surely you should articulate it. Because I don't know what your argument is, right?
Well, I mean, I thought you'd seen the video, so I mean, okay, fair enough. My point is that it seems to me that the anarcho-capitalist, and yes, I have looked into it, and I understand there's a difference between ANCAPs and minarchists and objectivists. They are all not the same thing, and each one has their own variant and flavor of each one to some degree or another. I get that. But the anarcho-capitalist worldview seems to construct a whole framework around the idea that initiating involuntary force is a bad thing and it shouldn't happen, but at the same time, its whole philosophy is engineered in such a way to where it uses presupposed interpretations of prioris to or understandings to basically make allowances for some seemingly involuntary involuntary initiations of force. But yeah, for me, it seems really screwy, and it just happens to allow like private property rights, individual rights, and not much else beyond that. It seems oddly convenient and self-serving, and that's really what I was trying to get at. And in the end, if you disagree, that's okay, but that's just what I was trying to get
at. Well, I'd just like to point out the NEP is, it's not very proper to define it as do not initiate involuntary force. It's far better to define it as where aggression is defined as the initiation of conflict rather than involuntary force, because, you know, that just kind of kicks the can down the road of what the fuck does, you know, force, what does that constitute? So I think conflict is a far better metric to use when defining the NAP. So conflict would be something like where two people are trying to use the same thing towards two contradictory ends. So, like, you know, Crusoe and Friday are on an island. Crusoe sees a stick poking out of a tree. He takes the stick off the tree, sharpens it up, and wants to use it to spearfish. And Friday comes along and he wants to use the stick instead to stoke his fire. And then, you know, if Friday were to try and take that stick off Crusoe, they would have a conflict over the use of that stick, because they can't both do the same thing at the same time. So that's what a conflict would be. And an ANCAP would... There is no situation at all where I would think the initiation...
And conflict, it can mean anything, not just the absolute and only physical, like somebody stabbing somebody else. It can be other forms of conflict as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or just that. Well, to me, somebody could come along and be, like I said, an anarcho-communist or whatever, somebody who doesn't believe that private property is a thing, that all land is commonly shared between the people, and the fact that you are making a claim on a particular piece of land, well, you're saying this is mine, stay off it because I say so, because I say this is my rights, because this is what my presupposed selected or pre-chosen philosophy says so, and you gotta obey it, or I will use force to keep you off this part of land, even though I worked on it, and whatever other justifications that maybe or may not be valid, but still, it's that potential conflict that put there, because now all of a sudden you're telling other people, hey, respect me and what I want, but other than that, I really don't care. And it may not be you that could do that exactly, Liquid Zulu, but it's just the idea of what others could take your philosophy and take it to that direction, because it seems to me to be this whole thing seems to be really dependent on, like, all individuals, or or the vast majority of individuals acting rationally and logically and with decency, and well, people just aren't that way.
So is your argument there that, you know, some commie or something could come along and they disagree with the notion of private property, and so they don't care, so that is an initiation of conflict with them because they don't agree with private property? Is that your assertion there?
Kind of broke up a little bit. I think you said, like, can somebody come to an island where the land is...
No, I'm asking if your argument there was saying that, well, some socialists might disagree with the notion of private property, so, you know, you're initiating conflict with these socialists by even caring about private property.
Yeah, pretty much. Because you're making a claim that this particular patch of land is mine because I say so, stay away from it. I'm forcing others to do what I want, basically.
But the thing is, the entire concept of private property is built upon the foundation of conflict avoidance, so how can it possibly be the case that this is initiating conflicts to even denote these conflict-avoiding norms? If it's a conflict-avoiding norm, how can having a conflict-avoiding norm known initiate conflict in and of itself?
Because you're telling others to stay away from this piece of land or else.
Okay.
That's potential.
So, I mean, you know, do you think I would have a property right over my own body? Right? Would I be initiating conflict to say, no, you're not allowed to have sex with me, and, you know, stopping them from having sex with me?
Land is not your body. You know, I mean, I understand that.
Okay, right, yeah, but
property as an extension of themselves, and it's really convenient to make their...
No, I'm just trying to get through whether there are any types of property rights which you do agree with. You know, a property right in my own body, would you agree? Would I be initiating conflicts if I were to tell somebody that I don't want to have sex with them and to stop them from having sex with me?
Well, it kind of implies that we are property unto ourselves. We own
We
ourselves as if we're property, and that implies that we can be bought and sold. And I don't see. Now, here's the thing.
No, it doesn't.
I don't. Well, it only implies that.
It does not imply that. I don't think
When you own something, you bought and sold.
not necessarily, no, because
Well,
I
you
don't
can.
think your self is alienable in any way. So I don't think you can sell yourself, because selling things, that comes from contract law, which arises out of the ethic of conflict avoidance. So
So it's-
property has to be at the root of that, and the property in your own person could not possibly be transferred to anybody else. It's dialectically impossible.
well, you said contract law. I mean, also now there are laws that have to be
Mm-hmm.
respected
What's
and
a legal
observed,
system?
and well, of course, a legal system that, of course, you want to agree with and you want to be approving of. And if you don't approve of it, all of a sudden you feel like you're being aggressed upon or conflicted upon because these laws that will apply to you, you feel that are all of a sudden unjust. So, I mean, that may not be an entirely
Well, we're both
stable.
proposing a legal system here. My legal system is built on conflict avoidance, though, so I can actually deal with conflicts in my legal system.
Yeah, in your legal system, the one that
Uh-huh.
you prefer. But others may have a different set of philosophies in
And they're
mind, and now all
wrong.
of a sudden you come along and say this piece of land is mine, and stay away from everywhere else, and that's still initiating sort of a claim of threat of promise of force if
So,
land that you feel is yours is being and
yeah,
that's what I mean.
you're allowed to use anarchism is not about, because you're simply defending yourself. You're defending your property.
And people see them can be saying defending themselves from using land that they may need to do whatever they need to do to survive or
That's
live,
not
and you want
defense.
to cordon off this piece of land to say sure. So yeah, it is.
They're the
It
aggressor.
really is. Well, that's how they see it,
Well, it's
and they see
irrelevant
you
how
as the
they see
aggressor
it.
making a plan.
They're
Of course not.
they're
I know.
objectively the aggressor there, because they're the ones initiating the
And
conflict.
you're initiating a claim that this piece of land is yours because you
Okay,
say so because you worked on it a little bit.
so what? That's irrelevant. They're the ones initiating the conflict, which is what relevant here.
Okay. Of
So I
course,
mean,
it's a nice hand wave, but I
I mean,
understand.
how would your perfect socialist system deal with conflicts then?
I don't believe in perfection. I don't believe in utopia. I'm not. I think that sometimes use of aggressive conflict may be necessary to protect other rights of people. But like I said, I don't make that claim that what you're saying is to do like absolute conflict avoidance because people always disagree about stuff and they'll even lie about stuff, even in your more ideal, not perfect, but more ideal ANCAP sort of society. I mean, if, like I said before, if people were truly, by and large, mostly rational, logical, decent people, I believe that your system may work because then a lot of super people who are rich would be really charitable. But in reality, there are just enough greedy pieces of psychopathic, psychotic shit um, to where it throws a monkey wrench in the whole thing. For me, I try to build a system off of effective outcomes that still respect. Hey, you want freedom of speech? Great. You want freedom to own a gun? Great. For self defense? Great. And that sort of things. But it's kind of like a give and take. Like, hey, if you want something from me, I might want a little something from you. It's kind of a trade that way, but it's compromising. I know it's not clear cut necessarily, but that's how I see it.
So you said there that sometimes conflict initiation is required to protect rights. So what are rights?
Whatever we agree upon, like the Constitution declares the rights. I mean, I understand people like yourself believe in like things called natural rights, and those rights are foundational and they precede everything else. I mean, I get that. And the thing is, I may not have a problem with just saying, hey, look, with Zulu, you want to own some land? Fine, great. Just do us a favor and just reciprocate some understanding that if we're going to give you a little bit of what you want, just give us a little bit of what we want, and we'll work something out. I mean, I think that's much more reasonable than there's this absolutist sort of notion that my rights are this and they're objective, they're absolute, and you got to respect them no matter what. But somehow that's not me initiating action or potential conflict on a society that may view things differently. It's may not be clear cut or simple, but again, I'm not a utopiast or panacea,ist but that's pretty much it, really.
So you said there that rights are whatever we agree upon. So let's say there are two people on an island again, Crusoe and Friday, and Friday thinks Friday wants to go ahead and stab Crusoe, but Crusoe doesn't want him to be. Crusoe doesn't want Friday to stab him. Does Crusoe have no right to not be stabbed?
Well, the thing is, if the dude stabs the other guy is literally taking the action of initiating action or force on the other person.
Yeah,
That's
but
what
you
they're doing.
you have no objective foundation for rights there. Your foundation for rights are whatever we agree upon. So there they don't agree on whether or not it's Crusoe has a right to not be stabbed. So Crusoe does not have a right to not be stabbed, in your opinion.
Well, that's my opinion. That's my opinion. And
Right. So this
your
is
opinion may be different. Any other person.
rights are the foundational norms of the legal system that you're proposing. So your legal system here would allow basically anything to happen, right? Because nobody's ever going to agree on anything, right? So what are some rights that you think would be in your ideal legal system when it played out?
Basically what we have now, but it's just building upon like ideas of economic democracy, workplace democracy to some degree. I'm not talking about making everything co-ops, but maybe you're looking at what Germany's been doing with for the larger businesses with co-determination. I'm not sure. Are you familiar with that? Worker reps on boards and such.
Nope. So one of the rights would be to have worker reps on your boards.
Well, not so much a right, but it's just a law. But law
okay,
is
so
basically an
what
extension
would
of rights. So
can you name one of the
rights.
rights that there would be in your ideal legal system?
Well, in my that's the thing. If I describe what's in my ideal legal system and it's in conflict with yours, then you're going to say there's a conflict because you may not want to go along with it.
Okay.
Rights or what's
exactly. So there's no such thing as rights in your legal system, really, unless because if everybody is already agreeing to do things in a certain way, the concept of rights is entirely irrelevant. It's pointless to care about it when everybody agrees on it. Rights only matter. Anything in the legal system only matters when people have disputes over how things should be done. When there are normative disputes going on, right?
Well, we got plenty of people that think that the right for everyone to have a vote shouldn't be a thing. I mean, everybody.
So you think that should be a thing?
Every little thing. Well, I think it should, but other people don't.
Okay, well, I disagree. So we don't agree on it. So therefore, it's not a right under your legal system, because your legal system has it where it's only a right when everybody agrees to do it. I'm talking about your ideal legal system here. And you said in your ideal legal system, rights are defined as when everybody agrees that the right exists. So if anybody ever violates that right, it instantaneously ceases being a right. So if I stop somebody from voting, it's no longer a right to vote.
As long as you don't have remedy. And we have no rights without remedy don't mean shit.
What does that mean?
That means if your rights get violated, you have recourse. And if someone has the rights to...
No. If your rights get violated, under your definition of rights, they could not ever possibly be violated, because the second anybody disagrees with that it's a right, it's no longer a right.
Well, yes, your rights were violated, but...
No, it's impossible for them to be violated under your definition of rights.
No, my definition of rights just says that people have these rights and protections that society says that they have based on Constitution.
Society says that they have them. So how do we determine what society says which rights you have?
Well, let's see what the people say.
What people?
And people, well, everyone. People.
So we're back to everybody has to agree that it's a right for it to be a right.
What's that?
So we're back to everybody has to agree that you have a right for you to have that right.
No, not necessarily, because other people think that rights.
Okay, so not everybody. So what people must agree that you have a certain right for you to have that right?
And that's the problem right there. Is like not everyone's going to agree, but under
exactly. So
says yes.
Which people have to agree that you have a given right for you to actually have that right?
Well, myself, apparently we have to advocate for such rights, and
so
that's what you're doing, and that's
so
what I'm doing.
So when you think that you have a certain right, then that's a right.
Well, that's my opinion, but I may be a person that says, well, I don't think I have that right. And that's because they're a different person. Okay,
you're right, but we're talking about your conception of the law here, the just law, and we're currently down to when whatever you personally say are the rights, they just are the rights, and you've just arbitrarily decided them.
I didn't arbitrarily decide these by myself for others. I said these are rights for myself. But if society agrees for differently, then I will advocate for this, that, and the other. But the problem is, I'm the one that's advocating for a different change in the laws. And this is the struggle that's been happening in the United States for many years, adding different rights or amendments to the Constitution. And so people have the extended rights to actually say, yes, you have these rights to do this and to have recourse if they actually get violated. It's not perfect, and I'm not. Right,
but this is the rights are just which norms you were just picking out of the air and deciding, yeah, this one should probably be a right, that one's not a right. You know, you're just arbitrarily choosing these rights. You aren't determining them from some core axiom, right?
Well, the core axiom is one that you adopted and one that you're applying to the situation because you chose to adopt it.
And what is that?
Now, all of a sudden, now all of a sudden you're saying,
what is that core axiom?
What is the core? What is it?
What is the core axiom of your legal system from where you are deriving the rights?
Wherever you say
arbitrary.
Well, let's say you're right. Let's say it's not arbitrary. Let's say it's doing.
Okay.
Still you're initiating. You're initiating. The point is, you're still initiating this claim that this land is yours because you worked on it a little bit or whatever. Stay off of it or else. So that's not conflict avoidance. That's just you setting up for someone to disagree with you, to come to you and then say.
So you agree that my system of law is non-arbitrary, right?
Was that?
So you agree that my system of law is non-arbitrary? Is that correct?
According to you, it is.
No, it's just objectively non-arbitrary.
Based on your pre-assumed position.
No, I didn't pre-assume anything.
I mean, you adopted it.
What do you mean by adopt? I adopted the truth. It's a true ethic.
Truth can be subjective too. But you're saying it's like.
I'm sorry, no, truth cannot be subjective. Truth is, by definition, objective.
Truth is like, if I look up and see a cloud, I'm seeing it truthfully as a duck, but someone else is seeing it as they see a cat. I mean, both of us are looking at it, we see the truth. I mean, that's based on perception.
No.
Too.
We're talking about the illogical truth here. Do you understand what a proof by contradiction is?
Yeah, you're trying to find a way to where, no matter what's stated, basically, it's you. No matter how you answer, it always comes back to the same point. Or am I wrong?
Sort of. I mean, it's where you have two possibilities, A and B, and you look at possibility A, and it leads to a contradiction when you assume that A is true. So that must necessarily mean that the negation of A, B, is true. That would be a proof by contradiction. You have proven B by showing that A would lead to a contradiction. Wait, what the fuck is going on with my screen?
So. Yeah, if you want me, wait a minute.
Fucking, I guess we're just going to move on. Sorry. Well, let's get back to the debate. Stream's lagging to shit. But yeah, no. So that's a proof by contradiction, and you can use this. Basically, the only time when you can propose a norm is in an argumentation, right? That's how you have normative disputes. It's through the use of argumentation. So, but argumentation does not itself exist in a normative void. There are certain norms that you presuppose when you argue. For instance, you couldn't ever argue that argumentation is pointless. So it must be false that argumentation is pointless.
Well, if you want to do conflict avoidance, the problem is when you initiate action to do something, and you want other people who may disagree to basically respect what you want, no matter what, because of your worldview, then you are the one that's actually beginning to initiate possible conflict because you're saying, "This is mine. Stay away. I don't care what you believe because my worldview says this." And says,
I'm not just saying this. I'm not just pulling this out my arse here. I'm proving it on an objective basis.
Well, you say that, but it's like an objective
and I'm
basis
correct. I can
on your
prove it
worldview.
to you.
But even if you do, let's say you do.
Okay.
The thing is, you're still doing what you're doing, and your worldview still says basically screw off, and that's the inconsistency here.
What? How is that an inconsistency? I prove that my ethic is the only correct ethic. That contradictory ethics to mine are necessarily false. How is that me being wrong?
Well,
you just agreed that I can prove it here.
Because you base it on your individual action of choice in initiating.
No. I'm not just choosing this. If I were just choosing between a bunch of different ethics, then yeah, it would be an arbitrary decision. But I'm not. I am showing that contradictory ethics to mine are necessarily false.
Yeah, because that's whether your adopted worldview.
No. It's not just because that's what my adopted worldview says, because it's objectively true.
Well, say it can be as well.
What? Do you understand what it means when I say something is true?
Yeah, you're trying to say that it is a valid sort of assertion.
Yeah, like, as in, it's the correct thing. It would be like saying, like, well, yeah, that's like it's. I don't know how to explain this to you easier here. There are norms. Do you know what a norm is?
Yeah, it's a normal. Yeah, you actually have to figure the exact term, exact definition for like normative or norm. So
Right.
if you could refresh me.
So it's like some sort of moral rule, right? It's something that you ought to do or ought not to do, something like that, right?
Right. I get that.
Okay. So there are norms that are presupposed when you argue with someone. For instance, you could not ever argue that argumentation is pointless. You know, argumentation being pointless would definitely be normative because it's not an is statement whether or not argumentation is pointless. It's very normative, right?
Well, I mean, argumentation can be pointless. I mean, not
Okay, but
always.
you could never argue that argumentation as such is a pointless activity. Do you agree?
I mean, as a blanket statement, I'll have to say it can be pointless or it can't be. It can be either or, based on the situation.
Okay, but you could never argue that argumentation as such, just as an activity, is a pointless thing to do. Do you agree that you could
Well, if
never
it's
argue that?
well, if it's never, then I suppose, yeah. I mean, because you actually
Okay,
use that
right.
exclusive sort of, yeah, what do you
Yeah,
call it?
because if you were to attempt to try and argue that argumentation is pointless, you'd disprove yourself. You'd contradict yourself by, arguing it. You are showing that you don't think argumentation is pointless. So you're simultaneously proposing the norm that argumentation is not pointless and that argumentation is pointless, which is a contradiction. So therefore, you must be wrong.
Well, no, the thing is, you're saying never. You put a qualifier in front of it after, I think, you put a qualifier that
What?
says never. You say argumentation is pointless, and now all of a sudden it's never pointless. So you put that, you kind
No,
of
no, no, I didn't
put a
say it
qualifier
was
in there.
never pointless. I just said you could never argue that argumentation is pointless. Because if you're trying to propose that argumentation is pointless, you'd be proposing simultaneously that argumentation is not pointless.
Right. So since it's never, yeah, in that sense, yeah. I mean, I get it.
Right. And
So,
similarly,
so that's
s- s-
go ahead, go ahead.
so similarly, you could never argue any ethic for which would be conflict initiating, right? Because argumentation itself is a conflict-free way of interacting. So to try, similarly as before, if you're to try and propose that one should go about initiating conflicts, you'd simultaneously be proposing that disputes should be solved peacefully, which is conflict avoidance.
Yeah, I mean, ideally they should be resolved peacefully, and people don't get physically hurt. Ideally, but then again, we don't live in
Right,
an
okay,
ideal
but the
reality
point is,
where people are not going to agree.
you could never propose that a dispute should be solved through violent means, right? You could because argumentation itself is solving disputes through peaceful means. It's a peaceful
Well,
method of dispute
that's a
resolution,
that's a preference. But sometimes, like through conflict, sometimes it's
right?
necessary to make sure the other person doesn't doesn't just willy nilly say, "Hey, I'm doing this because I want to." Fuck you, and then I don't care what you gotta say. Me, I've been saying that pretty much the whole time, and I understand like you're trying to get into like the deep philosophical end of it. And for me, I'm trying to like mentally hang on to like your line of reasoning, and like some of it does make sense, and others like it doesn't. Like I'm just saying the whole entire time, whenever you make a claim, you're the one initiating action, initiating a claim that could very well be something other people say, wait a minute, dude, that's we got a problem with that because now you're cordoning off land, for example. You're saying it's yours because you say it's yours for whatever reason, maybe valid, may not, but still, this is what you're doing. You could very well potentially, or actually, you are initiating potential real conflict right there because other people may disagree with that shit because they say, wait a minute, you're not cordoning off this piece of
I,
land that people may
I think it
need.
might be good to
And
move on.
all right, all right. So
So,
the next,
do you think the ideal system of social organization would be democratically run?
depends what you mean by democratically run.
I mean, where you vote on what the laws should be, we can say.
Um, Again, I mean, there are many different types of democracy. There's constitutional, electoral, um,
Sure. So would
system.
it,
Parliamentary.
I'm not specifically caring about what specific type of democracy it would be, but would it be some sort of democracy?
Some sort, yeah. I mean, it's similar to one, at least what we have now in the
Okay.
United States.
Do you have a preference for any given system of democracy?
Currently, pretty much what we have now. Just I'd like to build upon it.
So, like, sort of representative democracy type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, technically it's a mix, or like at the local and state level, it can be direct ballot initiatives, direct levies and whatnot. But at the upper state and federal level, it's representative. But
Okay.
it's yeah,
So,
I'm being pedantic.
do you think the US is the ideal system of law?
I honestly don't know if it's the most ideal, but it seems to be working out
But you said
pretty.
the ideal system of law would have the laws decided democratically, exactly how the US is deciding them. So how could it
Well,
be
that's
that it's not the ideal system of law?
well, you're asking me a hypothetical, and me, I was trying to give.
Yeah, but your
Like I
answer
said,
to
a
that
very
hypothetical is no, the US is exactly, it fits all my criteria for the ideal system
I
of law.
said I said it's pretty similar. I didn't say it was exact.
Okay, so how would you change the US to make it the ideal system of law?
Well, I'm not sure if I would change it. Honestly, I have to really look into that. I'm not saying it's pretty close to what seems to be a pretty well operating sort of system overall. Now, is it perfect? Probably not. Is it? But then again, I'm not a perfectionist. I'm not a utopian. But the same thing is like trying to get the whole thing is like democratizing like the economy at least somewhat, like they have in other countries, like providing some public housing, which I'm sure you don't exactly approve of that. Probably not. Sorry, I don't mean to speak for you. I'm sorry. Um, but it's like other ideas like that, like maybe not taking, but having some services provided that are maybe not totally locked to the market sort of system. Maybe it's like other countries with, again, housing, higher education, maybe even healthcare to some degree. And then as far as the workplace is concerned, like with Germany's model of co-determination for larger businesses, where the private owners still privately own the business, but the workers have a voice through elected
So why do you
representatives.
want to
Sure, chosen.
democratize the economy?
Well, the biggest reason is the problem is how the wealth is concentrating more and more and more into the hands of a relative few, and that relative few is you are using the government apparatus because through lobbying and Citizens United ruling to basically shift or skew the game more and more in their favor to further insulate their position, to keep in that position of untold levels of wealth and power. And I don't like to see that kind of wealth and power, concentrate in the hands of relative few. And if, for example, we go by your system more or less, it'll just end up being a de facto land aristocracy, and who owns the land pretty much. They call the shots effectively, even though they may be benevolent sort of leaders, maybe, but still, that to me, it can lead to very dark places because it's just the lack of accountability for everybody.
So is your only problem with the wealth collecting into the, top few that those top few can then corrupt the government?
As one, but I don't think like maybe you're trying to get out. Maybe we should get rid of the government, and then the markets will somehow straighten that all out. I mean, that is pure conjecture. I mean, if you're doing that,
So
because I've had this.
what are the
conversation
other
before.
problems with the wealth collecting into the top few?
Well, when other people, like for example, the relative bottom, they need things to survive, and because these wealthy elites basically control the workplaces and whatnot undemocratically, they're going to more and more concentrate that wealth in their hands, which means they're not going to pay. They're going to do whatever they can not to pay their workers, maybe as much as they could be, and the people are not going to make. I guess you're typing stuff in the background.
Mm-hmm. I'm typing what you're saying.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're logging and everything. Shit. But oh yeah, that's fine. Yeah, just yeah, for me, it's just like they have the system that benefits them through property rights, and they will use whatever they can to basically make that more and more in their favor because simply they can, and that's the way the game is rigged. And basically, you either get super duper rich like that, or you end up very likely being at the mercy of those who happen to have a lot more than you. And to me, that seems very economically authoritarian, basically.
So your second problem with the wealth being concentrated in the top few was that people at the relative bottom need things to survive, and because elites control workplaces, they won't pay those people at the bottom as much as they could pay them otherwise, right? Is that fair enough?
Maximize profits? Yes. Yeah, I guess
Okay.
so.
Do you know
That's
what?
mainly about it. But
Do you know what mutual
so,
profit is?
and what's that?
So basically, whenever two people have a voluntary trade, both parties necessarily profit. Let's take the example of me buying a hot dog from a hot dog vendor. I go up and I pay $5 for the hot dog. From that trade happening, you know two things. First, I must have valued the hot dog more than the $5, or else I would not have agreed to trade. And second, the hot dog vendor must have valued the $5 more than the hot dog. So we both have a profit there. Do you agree with that?
Well, that's you buying something from the vendor, not selling your labor to an employer for as cheap as possible to get, to get a paycheck.
Why would I sell it for as cheap as possible? As cheap as possible would be me paying to work for somebody.
No, I mean that's what employers do. They use them.
Right, but
They use the reserve. They use the reserve pool of labor to basically press down, to apply downward pressure on wages to keep wages as low. I'm not saying $1 an hour, but just as low as possible to maximize profits. Because
yeah, but both parties profit. It's not just the person who is hiring who is profiting. It's also the employees. They're also profiting because it's a trade.
Wages are not profit. Wages are a set pay of compensation for your productivity.
Do you disagree that it's a trade?
It can be a trade, but it's a trade that seems to favor more and more of those who happen to have that.
How do you determine that it favors those people in the position of power when both parties are profiting?
Well, they may be technically benefiting. I'll use that word. Benefiting.
Let's use the word profiting because that's the economic term for it.
But profits are not wages, though.
I mean, it is for the employee because that's what they get out of the trade.
Yeah, but even so, the staggering amount of wealth inequality for the upper 0.01% of this country pretty much shows how the money has been trending upward over the many decades. I mean, if anything, that should show you that.
I mean, do you disagree that in a voluntary trade, both parties profit?
In theory, it's possible.
What would be a counterexample? A voluntary trade where both parties don't profit?
Well, basically, the idea is you're effectively coerced into saying, well, if I want to.
That's not voluntary, then, is it? If you're coerced.
Well, technically, it's voluntary. Like there are different degrees of that. Like there's implicit coercion, which is like how you gotta get up and go to work and do it, even though I don't want to, versus somebody putting a gun to your head and say like, do this or else. I mean, there are different levels.
I really want you
there is some nuance.
Tell me what you think the word voluntary means.
Basically, when you do something totally of your own volition, when no one else is really forcing you to do it, and there's no
the word forcing you push. There. Forcing, right. So if you're forcing someone to do something, that's not really voluntary, right?
Well, that person isn't really forced by, say, like the employer, but it's the system that pretty much leaves them out in the cold.
Okay, so the employer, which person is forcing the person? Which person is forcing the employee to go to work?
Well, it's not so much a person forcing that person to do it.
So what is forcing them?
Hold on. It's the system that. Well, let me say this. It's the system that respects property rights and contract law and all that shit, right? But it provides for them, but not for those at the bottom, who very well may need like just like a baseline of support from a strong social safety net, to where they would be less coerced.
So how can a system force someone to do something? How can a system do that?
Well, if you want to participate in the economy, you gotta do it. You gotta go out and work for an employer and get a paycheck so you can get those monetary notes to participate in the economy. I mean,
okay, right, but that would be you choosing to participate in the economy. Right, I don't know what it means for the system to be forcing you to make that choice.
Because if you don't, you're not participating in the economy, and you have to
Okay,
scratch
yeah,
a
so
living
if
off.
you
And you
want to
and you have to
participate in the
scratch
economy, then yeah, you have to do it.
and
How
you
is that the system forcing you to participate in the economy?
and you have to scratch it because if people would prefer to participate in the economy, or they
Yeah,
may
if they
want to,
choose to.
or they may have to, So okay,
Have to based on what?
so
Who's forcing them to do that?
the fact that they need to eat,
Okay,
the
right,
fact
but
that
they could choose to not eat. Nobody's
But
forcing them to want to eat.
but people want to eat.
Okay,
But
so then they'll choose to participate in the economy.
But they have to do something else in order to get that.
Okay, so then that's why they're choosing to participate in the economy, because it gets them things they want.
Okay.
Okay, so do you agree that nobody's forcing the employee to go to work?
Nobody's like an actual person putting a gun
Right,
as
so
they go to work or
nobody's
else.
forcing them.
But they can be effectively coerced by a system that says, hey, either
I don't
work for.
That's just nature. If they that's just the logic of how things work. If I want the guy's hot dog, I'm being forced, I'm being coerced into getting the hot dog because he's the only guy who sells hot dogs in town. That's nonsensical.
The thing is, not only people can provide a pressure of coercion to do something in order for people to get what they need to live. Yes, yeah, to read that is nature, but that is a cop out. Because we are, like I said, we are providing property rights and all these other wonderful things for those who have this, but everyone else is like, hey, look, you're on your own. So I'm saying it's just screwy to me that we provide so much to those who already have so much, and then tell those who don't have hardly jack shit, say, hey, this is what you got to do effectively to basically participate in the economy, and you have to end up more often than not work for them to make a monetary gain.
Okay,
and
can we define voluntary interaction? Let's use the word human-based coercion if you think it's possible for nature to coerce a person in a way. Let's say that a voluntary interaction is when there's no human-based coercion forcing either party to engage in that interaction, right? Can we do that just for the purposes of moving forward?
Okay, well, I mean, if I can just give like an example, like for example, let's say I want to take a walk in the park. No one's forcing me to do it. I have no other sort of pressure making me want to do it. I do it because I genuinely want to. It's a nice day out. Maybe I want to go take a walk in the park. That is voluntary. That is no outside pressure, systemic or otherwise, or another person making you go out and take a walk in the park. You are actively wanting to go out and take a stroll in the park because that's something you generally want to do. You're acting on that purely wanting impulse versus, man, it's like, man, I gotta pay this rent, so I gotta go out and do this in order to get the money to not get evicted or whatever else. That's a little different.
Okay, so can we define, for the purposes of this argument, a voluntary interaction is where there is no human-based coercion going into being done against either party in the interaction. Can we agree on that?
Let's see. Human-based could mean a system that's set up by people to make, and either indirectly, it could mean that.
Right, human-based coercion meaning where a person, not the system, whatever that means, coercing you, whatever that would mean. Right? Can we just agree with that so that I can move along with the proof?
The thing is, you're trying to like really, I don't want to say pigeonhole, but it's like but there are different kinds
I'm just trying to
coercion out there.
I need to give like a very specific definition of coercion. I don't want to try and wrangle you over to what everybody else means by coercion. I'll let you stick to your definition of coercion. But I'm coming up with a new term, human-based coercion, where it's done by another person onto you.
And then that's the thing. You're trying to like see what I'm thinking on my terms.
I'm letting you have the term coercion. I'm letting you have it. I want to come up with this new term, human-based coercion, where it's literally just that type of coercion, which is done from one person onto other people.
Okay. Like if it's like a direct like interaction person A, like pointing a gun at person B to do something, that is human-based like coercion. Yes, that is. But there are also system-based coercions as well.
Okay, right. I'm going to ignore the system-based coercion.
Oh,
okay. So I'm defining a voluntary interaction as when both parties are consenting to it. There's no human-based coercion going into force either party to go along with the interaction. And do you agree that in a voluntary trade, i.e., no human-based coercion is forcing either party to accept the trade, there is mutual profit there?
I wouldn't say there's profit, but technically, okay. I tell you what. Technically, yes. Technically, based on that
Okay.
context, yes.
Right, so there is mutual profit in voluntary trade. So, in the case of the worker and the employer, this is another type of trade. The employer is trading the wage towards the employee under the condition that the employee does some work. This is a type of trade. So, there is also mutual profit there, i.e., the employer profits, so does the employee. So, under this, how can it be said that you're, the relative bottom needs things to survive, whatever, they won't be paying their workers as much as they should be, they're like exploiting the workers, what have you, right? But they're both profiting here. So how can you say that is the employer being unfair to the employee?
Because there are other factors at play, like the reserve pool of labor, using those forces to basically press down on wages. But again, I know you don't like the system, you don't like to see when you want to bring everything down to the level of the individual. I understand, but that's just more complicated than what you're saying actually overall. And it's like I kind of see where you're going with this. Like you're trying to basically say, well, it's a fair trade, and no one's technically forcing them. So it's like, what's the big fucking deal? But I think it's more complicated than that. That's what I'm trying to get to. But
okay, right. So you're bringing up this point of the employer is depressing wages, right? But both parties in any trade, they want to be giving up as little as what they have as possible. So the employee, they want to have their wage as high as fucking possible, and they want to do as little work as possible. Meanwhile, the employer wants the employee to do as much as work as possible with as low a wage as possible. That's true for both parties. It's not just the employer who wants the wage to go down. The employee wants their wage to go up, right? So both parties have these reverse preferences, and they meet somewhere in the middle where they both agree on a wage.
And you just described basically the diametric opposed interest of the employer and the employee, which is I don't know if you're familiar with this, but it's actually talked about a little bit in Marxist thought. I'm not fully read on Marxism, but I've read bits and pieces. But that's the one that really seems interesting to me because of that inherent conflict of like this person like
so
both
why are you taking a preference for the employee over the employer then?
Because the employer has a system basically backing up their property rights, their contract law, anything else they may need, the government infrastructure that allows them to commence commerce as they do, while everyone else is pretty much told, hey, on your own. I mean, we don't like the idea of expending too much social programs, which, by the way, I understand that anarcho-capitalist people on the economic right aren't really a fan of. And it's like, why are we going out of our way? The whole thing is like, why are we going out of our way to fucking hook these people up with such a nice thing, and they keep having to get more and more and telling everyone else, hey, just fucking deal with it. Oh well, that's just nature. I mean, to me, it just seems really screwy, unbalanced.
Okay, but why are you taking preference for the employee over the employer?
Because because of what they need, their basic needs aren't being addressed. There's not enough services out there for them to actually make actually true voluntary decision, saying, yeah, if I want to go out and visit this person, I have no real pressure on me to do so because I just want to work. I want to be more voluntary to do it instead of basically shoehorn into it's either work or poverty and a system that provides.
The only reason why anybody would choose to do anything is because they believe that it'll bring them higher on their scale of values. They believe it'll help to attain their highest valued end, right?
Maybe you or me, but other people think differently.
No, always. Nobody could possibly think differently.
They can't. Like, someone can't just be truly...
You could not choose to do something which you expect would lower yourself on your scale of values. It's impossible. Because that's what values mean.
Well, it depends on what kind of values you hold and where anyone else does.
No, it doesn't depend on what values you hold. No matter your scale of value, you will always act to attain your highest valued end.
And not necessarily. Not always.
What would be a counterexample?
I honestly don't know. I'm just saying it seems like a really absolutist example. I mean, like people, they don't actually always have to go out and do the highest value. Like maybe, for example, I want to go out and just work a relatively easy job that doesn't pay me the absolute most, but I need to, I just want a job that just
Right,
pays just enough.
that's still them acting to attain their highest valued end. It couldn't be anything else.
But I could go higher though, if I wanted to,
What do you mean go higher?
or go to a job that's maybe a bit more strenuous but pays a bit more.
Okay, irrelevant.
Okay, it's relevant.
Okay, right. So you were saying there how you want a social safety net and whatnot. Do you agree that welfare incentivizes people to engage in whatever you're welfareizing? For example, if you have a, welfare being given towards people who break their legs, you're essentially subsidizing leg breaking, and therefore you'll get more leg breaking than otherwise.
The issue of social safety nets, as they're typically done in the United States, being bureaucratic and means tested as they are they better than nothing? Sure, but for me, a lot of the issue comes from how those welfare program qualifications are set up for people to receive the benefits, and there does have a lot of effects. So basically, making people do just enough to still keep getting those benefits, but if it did work, say if they work more than a certain amount of hours, all of a sudden they get totally cut off and they no longer receive the benefits. So there is that sort of set up incentive currently in many welfare programs that I see that as problematic, because I think a lot of these programs should be more universal and shouldn't have those sort of restrictions where it doesn't pay people to do nothing. It pays them to basically be able to do anything and be productive in their own way.
Okay, but do you agree that in general, when you have a welfare on something, you are subsidizing people to do that thing?
Possibly.
What do you mean possibly? What would be the alternative?
Who knows, really? I mean, it doesn't have to be absolutely.
Surely you know. Why are you saying possibly?
Well, I'm saying because you seem to be asking these questions that are leading me in a direction like where if I give you like a hard yes, then that means you can go to the other extreme end and say this isn't the case because this, and like
no. I think it is the case. It is the case that when you welfareize something, you're subsidizing it. That's what welfare is. It's a subsidy on something bad happening, we could say. Whatever you're welfareizing, whatever you're providing welfare for, you're subsidizing that thing. So you'll get more of that thing than otherwise. Okay, so if you have welfare for the obese, you're going to get more obese people than otherwise.
I don't think the obese people are suffering from drinking too many sugary drinks, but I think as far as making people fat just to make them fat, like the program is to keep making them fat. I don't know. Yeah, it's
okay.
I mean, like,
but welfare.
What are you trying to get?
Welfare on people being fat. If you give people welfare for being fat, you are subsidizing when people are fat. You are making more people choose to be fat than thin. Do you agree?
Well, making sure they have food to eat. I mean,
no. Just by simply providing a welfare for being fat. I'm not saying everybody on welfare is fat. I'm saying if you provide welfare for being fat to fat people, you are incentivizing people to be fat because you're subsidizing it.
Maybe incidentally, but that's not the purpose of the programs.
Right. It's irrelevant whether it's the goal of it or anything like that. You just are doing that. So, what are the traits that you want to welfareize?
Well, just to make sure people have a basic what do you call it? A basic platform of support if they need it, where they're not homeless or starving. Or
not having a home.
Yeah, basically, like other countries do.
Okay, so therefore you'll have more homeless people than you otherwise would.
What?
Because you're incentivizing people to be homeless.
No, people don't want to be homeless.
They might.
Well, I say the vast majority of people don't. Now, some people do enjoy being like.
If you were given $1 billion a year to be homeless, would you be homeless?
It depends, really.
Right, so you might choose to be homeless for $1 billion a year, right?
Well, I say most people choose not to be homeless, but there are some exceptions.
So you're going to have more homeless than otherwise.
Well, there are always exceptions to the rule. But the vast majority of people do not want to be homeless. They want to be in a home. It's
going to attack the marginal individuals first. I agree. You're going to be taking the marginal individuals and moving them from homes to not being in homes.
if they don't want to be, like, at least should be there for people who want to be, who are homeless, who want to be in a home.
Right, but you're incentivizing them
No.
to be homeless. You're incentivizing them to remain homeless by paying them to be homeless.
I'm not paying anyone to be homeless.
You said you wanted it to be a welfare trait.
Well, being welfare doesn't necessarily mean a cash distribution. It just means
okay. What would your welfare system be then?
Basically, like some of these other European countries where it's stronger, or some of the programs are more universally provided, to where you reduce the likelihood. It's all about reducing likelihoods of people ending up in really bad situations. No, like I said before, no system is perfect, 100%, and it's just about really playing the odds and doing what's most likely to provide those overall better outcomes versus what we're doing now.
What would I get for being homeless under your homeless welfare?
Well, if you're homeless and if you want to get into a home, I mean, you go to an office, say, listen, I'm homeless, I need a place to basically live and stay, and they say, fine, great, and they register you, and they put you in the program, and they find you a place for you to stay. I mean,
for free.
Sure.
Okay, so that sounds like a big incentive. I get a free house for being homeless. I don't have to pay for a house.
Well, it may not be a house, but it'll be a place that you can stay.
Yeah, so I get free accommodation.
It may not be the Ritz, but
so
it'll still be it'll be dignified.
So you're gonna have way more people. You're gonna be incentivizing people to go on this program, right? So what would be the bounds to the size of this?
If they do, they do. But if all of a sudden in their lives they got themselves to a financial point to where they can move into a better house if they want to, that's what they'll do, because people do want to constantly improve their lives overall. Not everyone.
It's not necessarily an improvement to be in a better house, though. Better is a subjective valuation. I might prefer the free house than having to pay for a house and maintain it myself.
Maybe.
Right, so you're incentivizing people to go into these quote-unquote free houses. So, how would you be funding these houses? How would the state in general be funded?
Like the other countries do. I forget. I think Finland or one of those have provided basic housing. It's pretty successful. I mean, I understand, like.
But how are you funding it? Like, where are you getting the money from?
Through taxation.
Through taxation.
Government funds. Yeah.
Do you agree that taxation is theft?
No.
Why is taxation not theft?
No one chooses you to make it. No one forces you to make a monetary gain, kind of like what you said before. No one forces you to go out and make that money. And the thing is, when you do make that money, you are benefiting either directly or indirectly from government programs and services, which gives them money value. And for you to basically extract that value and then not pay back into it is basically tantamount to theft of service.
So do you think mugging is theft?
That is theft.
Why is mugging theft?
Because he's coming out of nowhere with a gun, and you have no idea that it's a surprise. He's like, "What do you think? He's going to come out? Wait, he's going to come out the shadows like, hey, give me 20% of what you got on you right now." Is he going to do that? No, he's going to take the whole thing.
If he did ask for 20%,
he's the one.
If he did ask for 20%, would it no longer be theft?
No, because here's the thing: it's theft because he's initiating force on you. When you go out and make a monetary gain, you are extracting value from the economy and the monetary notes to get what you want. That's what you're initiating that action.
So it's theft because he is initiating force.
No, you are the one. Maybe you're conflating this. The guy, the mugger, he's hiding in the alley. He's waiting for you. Then all of a sudden he pops out of nowhere. You're surprised. Oh my God! He's initiating force on you. You, on the other hand.
Okay, so the mugging is theft because the mugger is initiating force.
Right, on you.
Okay, right. So what do you think happens if you don't pay taxes? Will the government just leave you alone?
And listen, when you choose to make a monetary gain, you are initiating force to extract value from our economic system. You are initiating force. You are taking that initial action to do so, right?
So when you choose to make money, you are initiating force.
When you choose to make money over me, we are initiating force on that economy to extract value from it. Yes.
So how is choosing to make money initiation of force?
Because you're actively going out and doing it.
So if I run, I'm actively going out and doing something. Is that initiating force?
You're just running. Well, technically, yes, you're just running, but you're forcing your body to move. And
so your definition of initiating force is literally just when you're moving.
Could be.
So everybody's always initiating force all the fucking time then. So what?
Not
What about? So what made the mugging?
Oh, so you said.
So what made the mugging a crime then?
No. You're missing the point. When you go out and initiate making a monetary gain, you are initiating force by extracting value from our economic system to get what you want, those monetary notes.
So how are you initiating?
You don't seem to be getting that point. Like you're choosing to do
Right.
it.
So how are you initiating force when you choose to make money?
Because you're going out and doing it. You're going out and forcing people to basically
Forcing
give you
people to give you money.
Yes.
Okay. How are you forcing people to give you money?
Because the government can't stop you from doing that.
Okay. And why does that mean you're initiating force? Because the government can't stop you.
Because you're going out and doing it. You're taking advantage of.
What?
Have you heard? Do you know the concept of theft of service? When you go into a place, you dine and dash. You basically eat, and then you fucking leave. You know, it's the same thing.
Okay, but your definition of theft was initiation of force.
Yeah, you're going in there, you're taking what you want, and you're telling the servicer "fuck you," and then you're
Right. What if you don't do that? What if you pay for your meal?
Then that's not theft.
Okay. So what is theft about making money as such?
Because
Like if my grandma gives me $10 on my birthday, am I initiating force against her?
she's giving you money, and she's giving you the value. She's giving that value to you, so you can go do it. Do whatever you want with it. You basically
Okay,
you're accepting.
but am I initiating force?
You're accepting that money from her, which is a gift, and basically you are extracting that value from the economy.
Okay, but am I initiating force?
Well, when you put your hand out, you're basically taking it from her.
So you think I am robbing my grandma when I accept a gift from her?
Well, you're not robbing your grandmother.
Okay, but you said I was initiating force.
Because this is it's a bit more complicated thing, because the government simply provides the notes and the whole monetary system, and people want to extract value from it, and all of a sudden when they're asked to pay back into it, and all of a sudden they're like, oh my god, I want to do that. It's like then all shit's going to crumble.
Am I initiating force with my grandma? Yes or no?
Supposing that, well, yeah, I think your mother's giving, or your grandma's giving you the money, but the thing is, she's giving it to you, so that's more like a gift. So, but still, you still are using it. But you're still using that to basically.
So that's an instance of making money where it's not theft.
Well, somebody giving you the money is different than you going out and actively going out doing.
Right. Okay. So there are some times when you can make money where you're not initiating force.
But you're not really making money. She's just giving you a gift.
I'm making money there. I had less money than before.
You didn't go out and initiate that, but she's just giving it to you, and you're choosing to accept it.
So there are some times when you are making money and you're not initiating force.
Well, when you go out, you're doing it, but when
I mean, I had to go out to get to my grandmother's house.
You're still accepting it, which is still you extracting that force. Yeah.
So I am initiating force on my grandmother.
Well, you're both initiating force at the same time, I would argue.
So we're both robbing each other.
Yeah. Well, no, you're robbing from. If she paid tax, if she paid taxes on it, no, she didn't. But if you don't pay taxes on it, then technically yes. So I mean, why am I initiating force when I don't pay taxes on that gift I got from my grandmother? But I'm not initiating force if I do pay taxes. I mean, this is an interesting point. But the problem is, you're still benefiting from something that's provided by the government.
Right. Okay. That's a separate point, though. I'm trying to get through the initiation of force point. Yeah. Okay.
The initiation of force. Yeah. The initiation of force. But what I'm saying, when you go out and do the other thing, that's what you're doing. But, yeah, this is something. This is another interesting little angle that you guys come up with to basically justify ripping off the upkeep of. The economic infrastructure that makes this whole thing possible that you guys don't seem to mind taking advantage of.
Okay, well, that was just a word salad. Do you think I'm initiating force with my grandmother?
You've been saying some word salads too, honestly. But it's all right.
So, do you think I am initiating force on my grandmother when I'm taking money from her? Yes or no?
Well, if she's giving it to you, you're still accepting it. But that's not the same.
But am I initiating force? Yes or no?
That's not the same thing as you're trying to characterize.
Am I initiating force on my grandmother? Yes or no?
I would say that way, no.
Okay, so there are some times when you can make money, but you are not initiating force.
But you're still benefiting from that.
Okay, but there are some times when you can make money and you are not initiating force, Yet before, you said when you choose to make money, you are initiating force.
Because you're not, when she's giving you a gift, you're not really making money. You're just accepting it from her.
You're making money. Certainly you are. You have
That's
less
not
money
the same
before.
thing.
You have less
That's
money
just
before the gift and more money after the gift.
When you go out and do like what I said before, you're actively going out and doing that. When your grandmother comes up to you and gives you money, she's actually just giving that to you. But still, that you're still accepting that money though.
Right,
But
but
you're
there are
not
some
robbing
times when you can make money where you are not initiating force.
Well, there's a difference between, like, say, you robbing your grandmother and robbing the services of an economic infrastructure that's allowing you to be so gameful in the first place and puts value on the money.
I thought we agreed.
Or has value on the money.
I wasn't robbing my grandmother because I'm not initiating force on her.
Well, the way you were characterizing it had me a little confused. You're like, what the fuck is this dude trying to get at? Well, yeah, I mean, she's giving you the money, but that's different than you going out and basically trading your value and
Right, okay.
initiating
So-
action on a system. But still, you're
So
still
it's
benefiting
not
from that
necessarily the
fact.
case when you're making money that you're initiating force. It's not necessarily the case. And that's why it was a robbery in the case of the gunman. So why is it the case when, you know... So
where's
why
the,
is it
where's
the
gunman
mugger,
here?
the mugger? You said the reason why the mugger was
Now
robbing
you're-
you was because he was
Now-
initiating force.
Now, because he came out of nowhere to take from you, and you didn't agree to that. Your grandmother said,
Oh,
"Here,
'cause- so
take
you
some
didn't
money."
agree
That's
to it.
different. That's different.
So it's because you didn't agree to give him the money. That's why it's theft.
Well, you had to, or else he's
Right, or else he
comes out of nowhere. Your
Yeah,
grandmother,
otherwise
she may
he'd
come out-
do real
she
bad
may have
things
come out
to
of
you.
nowhere, but she was giving you.
Right, you know, if this mugger said, you know, if you don't give me money, I'll lock you in a cage, right? He would be stealing from you, right?
No, that's the thing, though. If you don't pay taxes, you're paying basically.
We're just talking about the mugger right now, though. If somebody came out, if somebody popped out from an alleyway and said, "Hey, buddy, I'm going to lock you in a cage if you do not give me 20% of your wallet right now," he'd be robbing you, right?
The problem with that is totally unexpected. When you start to make money, and you know very well you are expected to pay taxes.
What if he told me a week in advance?
This is no surprise.
What if he posts up flyers all around town saying, "By the way, if I see you, I'm going to put you in a cage if you don't give me money"? So you expect this to happen?
Because he's had no hand in providing that economic infrastructure, those monetary notes, and everything else for you to be. For you to be so gameful in the first place.
So if he's
artificially putting himself in the middle of that when he had nothing to do with providing the service you take advantage of.
So if he printed banknotes, he wouldn't be stealing from you.
Well, it's not just that. Well, if you want to use his banknotes to try to transact business, go right ahead.
Right, and what if he went around to all the businesses and said, "Hey, buddy, if you don't use my banknotes, I'll lock you in a cage." Right, so he forces everyone in town to start using his banknotes. So you're being forced to use his banknotes. Is he doing nothing wrong here?
Then the business person can say, "I don't want to use your banknotes," and
and then he gets locked in the cage.
Yeah, then that's him initiating involuntary force.
Right, yeah. So that's what the government does. They force you to use their banknotes.
No, you're not forced to use it.
Yes, you are.
No, you're not.
You are.
No, you don't. Because of all these businesses accept those banknotes, and you're effectively pushed into doing it. It's not the same thing as you said way before. It's a choice. It's all a choice.
No, government has monopolized money under fiat system, right? There are many transactions where they're saying, no, you're not allowed to, do this in gold or what have you. All kinds of regulations around that.
But the thing is, you still don't have to make a monetary gain, though, if you don't want to.
So you could choose just be poor.
If you want to.
Right. So why is it that when you choose to make money, that the government then gives the government the right to take that money from you?
Because they're the ones providing the service for you to be so gainful.
What service are they providing?
Providing the legal system, the monetary notes, the fiscal system.
What if I don't want any of those services, though?
Then don't do it.
So I don't want any of those services. Can I opt out of taxation?
Then don't. If you don't want to take advantage of the services, then for you to make a monetary gain, you are taking advantage of the services. When you don't want to do that, then why even?
Okay, so you think I should be allowed to make my my own police force, start manufacturing my own guns and start selling my services that way?
Yeah, there are places in the world where you can go do that.
Do you think I should be allowed to do that anywhere?
Well, I mean, if you believe in property rights, you should be able to.
I'm asking you what you believe in.
Well, that's the thing. You want me to answer that just so you can juxtapose your position. I mean, this is really.
And I'm asking whether you believe that to see whether you actually agree, whether I can choose to not engage with the government programs that they're offering.
Then don't choose to make a monetary gain, because without those
Right.
services,
Okay. Right. Let's say
you don't make any.
I don't want to
There's no
engage.
making it.
I don't want to engage with any of the government services. I just want to have my own services provided. Right. I want to provide them myself. So, do you think I should be allowed to Do you think I should be allowed to manufacture ghost ARs and have my own police force and arrest criminals on my own?
If you want to do it, go right ahead. But the problem is I mean, if you want to use monetary notes and shit and try to make them up, yeah, people are going to have a problem with that, because where's the value behind it? How are you? What are you producing and making that make sure your money all of a sudden different from the government? And you're just trying to find out.
What do you think?
You're basically just saying you just want to like either not pay taxes. If you don't want to pay taxes, don't make a monetary gain.
What do you think would happen if I were to make my own militia with my own guns and I were to not pay any taxes?
Well, then you're going out and initiating, doing what you want to do for whatever purpose, and we'd have to find out.
But what do you think would actually happen in the US? Let's say, because that's your favorite place.
It would be investigated, and if it finds out that you're initiating like unlawful conduct, you'll be arrested, just like any other law in any other ANCAP society. You go out and do some shit.
Well, let's say I'm not.
You're gonna be held accountable. Well, let's say that's what I mean. Like, let's say I'm not. Let's say I'm this.
Let's say I'm just.
It's all over the place.
I've just got some sort of militia, or I manufacture my own guns, and I don't want to pay any taxes. Right? What do you think would happen?
If you don't pay taxes on income that you initiated to go out to make, you will.
No, I'm choosing not to engage with any of the government services. I don't want to pay taxes. I want to make my own guns.
So basically you just want to make the money. You just don't want to pay. You just don't want to pay.
No.
Taxes,
I don't want to have any of the government services because I don't want to pay any taxes. What do you think the government would do to me?
I mean, what would they do? Like, I mean,
well, I've got a page right here. It says something, Waco siege. Struggle between U.S. government and armed inhabitants of a compound in Texas. Interesting. It seems these guys tried that. Didn't turn out too well for them. The ATF raided them and killed them all. Burned a bunch of children.
I'd have to look into that. That was an absolute fucking disaster mess.
Yeah.
Happened, but I'd have to read.
So that's what happens when you don't pay taxes and you want to provide your own services instead.
No, but did they make a monetary gain though? Is that the issue? That's the question.
What do you mean? Did they make a monetary gain?
Simple question, right? Were they making extracting value from the economy?
What do you mean? Okay, right. I want you to get through what exactly you mean by extracting value from the economy, because you keep using that term. What do you think that means?
Taking advantage of the current services in place to make your monetary gain. Because if they weren't there in the first place, you won't be able to make the monetary gain at all. I'm saying it's like, it is a catch-22, but it's like people want to benefit from these services, but sure as hell don't want to pay back into them when they're pretty much said, hey, you got to pay back into it in order to keep it
So
going.
extracting value from the economy is taking advantage of their services in place to make a monetary gain.
Yeah, that's what you're doing. On this system, you're basically taking advantage of a system propped up by that policy, these fiscal notes and whatnot is propped up by that in order to keep it going, so people get fucking paid for the services that they provide in the government. Well, I mean, unless you want people to work for free in the government, I don't know.
Let's say I have a business. This economy is entirely gold based. You know, all the money is gold, right? It's literally gold coins and everything like that. I go to some sort of casino or something. I'm really good at blackjack. I start playing blackjack and I win a bunch of money. You know, I am taking advantage of the service, the blackjack table, in order to make a monetary gain. Am I doing something evil there? Am I doing something which the government is then justified in taking my money?
Well, you're still extracting value from the casino, which you got the money from the banks, which you got the money from the government. So
no, it's gold.
Oh,
it's not fiat currency.
Oh shit, you're right. You broke up a little bit. Yeah, it's the gold. I mean, that's different. That's just trade. I mean, I assume so. I mean, fine. I mean,
so extracting value from the economy isn't necessarily something which the government is allowed to, you know, tax you on.
It's extracting value from the economy to get monetary notes. That's what I said.
Okay. So it's the fact that the government issues fiat currency. That's what gives them the right to tax.
just like any servicer that provides a service, if they want to be reimbursed a certain way for what they provide for you to get what you want from them, for
So
you to initiate that service. I mean, yeah.
do you think the government, when it started handing out all these notes, do you think it said, hey, by the way, sign this contract where you agree to be taxed if you use these notes at all?
I mean, do I have to sign a purchase and sales contract to buy a piece of gum?
What? I'm asking if you think when they were handing out all the notes, there was a contract in place where they agreed with the people they're handing the notes out to.
No, this is
okay, so
coming
you
to that
don't
point.
think that happened.
No.
So
That didn't happen. No,
why
that
is
did
it
happen.
that when you use government notes, they are allowed to tax you?
Well, you use the services to get the monetary notes, basically. And the government can't technically stop you from making a monetary note.
Okay,
You can't go out and
but
say
why
stop.
is it
So
that the fact that you're using government notes, why does that give them a right to tax you?
Because they're being provided by the service of the government. Do you think that do you think they should work for free? For the service
I think the government should stop monopolizing these services. That's what I think.
Well, it seems to me like your problem is with monopoly, but under an ANCAP system, effective monopolies would still be a thing without the benefit of the state backing them up. So, I mean,
No, monopolies only come about as a result of government grant.
I mean, it all comes back to basically you wanting to have a piece of land that you won't recognize as yours because you worked on it or whatever, and you want everyone else to leave you alone, but recognize what you declare to be your rights based on your philosophy. That's real convenient.
It's not convenient, it's correct.
Yeah, okay.
Because I didn't just decide this.
Of course,
I derived it.
Yeah, okay. You derived it, sure, whatever. But still, people gotta respect that, and because that's what you want. And it all keeps coming back to
No. They don't have to respect it because it's what I want. It's because that's just the truth of the matter.
If they don't respect it, you can take action on them. Say, hey, now you're enforcing when
because they'd be criminal.
Because you're all of a sudden a criminal in your framework. Yes, of course, but you're justifying claiming a piece of area as demarcated as yours because you say so, based on your correct decision. That's what, even if that's all true, that's still what you're doing. That's the inconsistency I'm talking about.
Right.
That you go, but of course you're going to say it's not inconsistency because it's your system.
No, I was actually going to say in that whole treadmill of speech there, you didn't actually say why it is that using government notes gives them the right to tax you.
I already told you they provide a service.
So it's because they provide a service. So you think this is a voluntary arrangement where they have in the contract of this arrangement, hey, we're going to be allowed to take some of your income if you use this service.
Now you're telling me that it has to be a contract. And I asked you
yes,
before,
you have to agree on it.
Yes, a purchase contract like purchase and
I mean, if I buy some chicken from the KFC down the road, is KFC allowed to tax me as well? Because I use their service?
Yes.
So you think KFC is allowed to tax me?
Because you're buying from them.
So you think KFC is allowed to tax for me? So KFC would be allowed to go around to everybody and say, hey, by the way, 20% of your paycheck this year is going to us. But I never agreed to that. Sorry, but you used our service one time, so we're taking your paycheck.
No. When you contract to do a business with someone, they're going to be reimbursed however they want to be reimbursed to get what you.
No, they're not going to be reimbursed however they want to be reimbursed, right? You couldn't just
always walk away.
Okay, but then you have to agree to the trade, right? If KFC said, hey, if you want this chicken, you're going to have to give us 20% of your paycheck, then yes, I agree. But that would be a contract there. They have set up a contract where I've agreed to give up 20% of my paycheck. No such thing happened with the state. The state said, by the way, here's the road. We've monopolized all the roads. By the way, you're paying us 20% of your paycheck now.
You're trying to shoehorn in the idea there has to be a contract. There has to be a contract.
Yes.
And the thing I'm trying to argue is like whenever you benefit from a service and the service says you got to pay me or reimburse me however I want or for you to get that service, and you tell them, hey, I want your service, and I'm taking basically extracting value from the service, and then you give them the middle finger. That is theft of services, which basically
so I have
advocating for.
Right now on me, I have a torch, as Americans call it, a flashlight, right? So if I shine this out onto the road, I'm providing a service of lighting the road, right? So I can provide this service for 1 second, and then I've provided a service to everybody who uses that road. So can I go around and tax everybody who uses that road? Because I've provided a service to them.
One, they don't know about it, and two,
they know about it because my flashlight's real bright. They'll be able to see the road better. So I'm providing them a service. So I'm allowed to go and tax the people who are using that road now.
Know the difference between you being taxed and what the government taxes is that the government actually provides an infrastructure. You, on the other hand, are just shining a
That's
light on the
infrastructure.
road randomly. That's not infrastructure.
That's
You just
infrastructure,
shining a
yeah.
light.
I'm lighting the road. Do you think, like, lampposts aren't infrastructure?
Well, line posts are, but those are put there by the
Oh,
government.
but that's... So it's because they're put there by the government. That's what makes it infrastructure.
What you're saying is basically like me going into like a private.
Yes or no? It's because the government puts it there. That's what makes it infrastructure, as opposed to somebody just doing something random.
Well, that does justify it. But
Okay, so what makes the government so special? Why is it that I can't provide infrastructure, but they can?
Well, if you don't want to do it, then don't have to pay for the service
Okay,
of the upkeep.
what made
Don't
the
do it.
government so special? Why is it that they are allowed to provide infrastructure, but I can't?
Oh, you can provide infrastructure.
Oh,
but
so
you
I can.
want-
So I
if you-
can
if
I
you-
can
if
shine
you
my
want-
light on
if
the
you want
road and, you know, light it up to make it easier for people to see. And then I'm providing infrastructure to them. I'm making it easier for them to see. So can I tax them now?
Man, you got some really creative fucking. I tell you what, you got some real creative ways to try to justify your system. I tell you what, man, it is a trip. But yeah, I'm gonna get it. The thing is, the problem with this is that you're going out initiating force yourself to do something onto others, while the government simply providing the services.
No, I'm just shining my torch on the road. That's all I'm doing. I'm providing infrastructure there. I'm lighting the road.
for 3 seconds. I mean,
Let's say I do it, you know, I hear a car coming, so I quickly rush to the window and start shining the way for them. You know, I've provided them a service there. Would I be allowed to take 10% of that person's paycheck?
well, they're not using your services to make their
Oh,
monetary
of course.
gain. That's the difference.
But
That's
they
the
need to
difference.
use the road to make monetary gain, right? They're probably going to work or something.
But you're not the one providing the road.
I'm the
Well,
one
it's your
providing
road
I'm the one providing the torchlight, though. The road's ever so slightly brighter now.
But
I've
they're not
provided a
using-
service
they're
to them
not-
which helps them to make money.
They're not doing that in order to make that monetary gain from you.
No, they're doing it to make monetary gain, though. So they're extracting value from my economy here.
You're just trying to stick yourself in the middle of a situation and saying, "Give me money out of
But
nowhere."
why is it that I am
versus-
sticking myself in the middle, but the government isn't? What makes them special in their
because they're the
providing
ones-
of infrastructure?
They're the ones providing the infrastructure from the first.
But I'm also providing infrastructure. You know, I came
And-
second, sure,
and
but I'm
you-
still providing
you-
infrastructure. I'm shining
But
shining
you-
my torch on the road.
But
People
but
can
you
use
are
that.
not- but you are not the one that's providing them the monetary notes in order to do so. You're
So
saying,
it's
"Give me
so
the
we're
money,
back
give
to
me
the
money,"
notes. So it's nothing to do with the service, right? It's nothing to do with the service provider. It's just the fact that you're using their notes. So why is it the fact that you're using their notes? Why does that give them the right to tax you?
because it's something that they have provided that you're choosing not to use, that you're going out of your way to go out and get it.
Why is it that the government is trying so hard to take out alternative currencies like Monero then? If you're free to use whatever currency you want, why does the
Because
government
people-
punish you for using other currencies?
It's not so much a punishment; it's that people.
Well, it
tend
is
to
a
use
punishment.
Punishment to basically be a tax cheat. I mean, to use those as instruments of like.
Whoa,
funneling
whoa,
money
how are you
around.
cheating taxes by using an alternative currency if the entire justification for tax is using their currency?
Because somebody else is providing that currency, and people trying to use that.
No.
in lieu
I'm
of the
choosing
dollar,
I'm
and it's
choosing not to use the US dollar anymore. Instead, I want to use Monero. Why am I being punished by the IRS? I'm choosing not to use their money.
Oh, Monero. What's Monero?
It is a type of cryptocurrency.
Okay.
Okay,
it's
so
currency.
I get punished by the IRS, assuming I lived in the US, I don't, right? But I would get punished by the IRS for using only Monero for my transactions. So I'm not using the US dollar anymore, I'm using Monero. Why is it that I get punished?
If you use a Monero, here's the thing: the moment you make that Monero currency and exchange it to U.S. dollars,
No, let's
that's
say I
when
never
you're
do.
taxed.
Even if I never do, I'll still get
Okay,
punished.
let's say you never do. Then how would you be punished? Like,
Oh, the
so
IRS will
basically,
come
you
down
find-
on
you
me like
find-
a fucking sack of bricks, dude. They'll be, hey, you're
This is-
cheating tax here, buddy, by
what did
not
you- what
using
did-
US dollars. You're not reporting your income here.
because did you originally take U.S. dollars and convert them into Monero, or
Yeah, probably.
okay, so you took the existing currency, the value of the currency, the monetary notes, and put it into somewhere else. And all of a sudden, you're trying to play a little shell game, and
What do
then
you mean put it into somewhere
government-
else?
the
I gave it to someone who had Monero. I wanted to get off the US dollar. I was like, okay, I don't want to use the US dollar anymore because I don't want to pay any more taxes. So I'm going to, shift my US dollars away and instead use Monero. So I'm no longer using their currency.
You're basically putting the value of those US dollars into
I am
currency,
giving those US dollars to someone else in exchange for them giving me Monero.
Okay, fine. Either way, you're giving it to them, exchanging it, trading it, whatever. But still, they're initially using US dollars to get something out of somebody else. So now they have the fucking money. They extract and they move that money.
So is using US dollars... So is using US dollars even one time just give the government carte blanche to tax you whenever the fuck they want?
If you don't want to benefit from the services provided,
you should stop using. Whoa! So you should stop using US dollars. But I just tried doing that, and still they're allowed to tax me
because you still use them to get those.
Right, I was trying to get off the US dollars. You said if you don't want to get taxed, don't use US dollars. But now I'm trying to get off US dollars, and you're saying, well, they're still allowed to tax you.
You're trying to skirt the fact that you're initially moving the US dollars.
Let's say I don't trade my US dollars. Let's say I just put my US dollars under my mattress, right, and I never touch them again. I just work from the ground up, building up my Monero portfolio, right? I never trade Monero for US dollars or anything like that. The IRS will still punish me.
Then how would you get Monero notes if...
Monero is a cryptocurrency. Monero isn't a person. Okay. Monero can't know anything.
I know, but how would you get those Monero notes or currency?
Let's say I know somebody who has a lot of Monero, and I say, hey buddy, I'll give you this pound of cocaine if you give me some Monero, and I give them the pound of cocaine, they give me the Monero, and I jog on back home. Right now I've got some Monero, and I keep building up my Monero like that,
Well, I mean, I personally don't really see a problem necessarily with that within that particular context. Other than the cocaine, I don't know the cocaine thing. I'd be careful about that. Just as far as like that, as far as me concerned, that's just people using monopoly money, as long as they're not using those United States monetary notes. Nice burp, I love that burp. Using those monetary notes basically find ways to extract money from or monetary value from United States currency, which that's the issue pretty much the entire time.
I want to really get through what exactly it means to extract value from the United States currency. I'm just moving US dollars around, and whilst it's being moved around, everybody's profiting. So when you use terms like extracting value, it sounds like I am sucking value out somehow. What exactly do you think value is?
Values, it definitely, it seems to be a subjective thing from person to person. Now, I don't know how you see it. But from my understanding, value can be many things. It can be tangible or intangible. It can be real world, like gold or whatnot, or it can be something that's totally abstract. Just value is something that's dependent on the person, I think. Right?
Right. So it seems weird to say that I'm extracting value from anything. Right, what is if value isn't like a thing where I kind of like go up to it with a syringe to some back of somebody's head and go like, just put out 12 cc's of value. Let's get this on ice real quick.
The wrench you broke up during the wrench part. What was that? You want to go out?
I couldn't just go out with a syringe and go to the back of someone's neck and pull out 12 cc's of value from them, right?
Well, still, you're going up to them and you're basically initiating action on them.
Right? Yeah, but I'm using that as an analogy to say I don't really understand what it means to extract value. It's a very weird term because you said before it was just when you make money. Doesn't seem like an evil thing to do, really.
I didn't realize using the word extract and value was such a weird thing.
It is. I suggest you read up more economics.
You're pulling the current value towards your direction for your use.
Current value. Again, when you use words like that, I don't. What do you mean the current? Whose current value of what?
Of what the United States government said those monetary notes are worth.
The United States government isn't a person, so the United States government cannot have values.
Well, it can have values.
No, it can't. It's not a person.
I didn't say it was a person. But
right,
still
so it cannot have values because it doesn't act.
Well, there are people that act in instead. That's why we have...
Mm-hmm. So each individual person in the government has a scale of value, sure. But the government doesn't have values.
No, the government isn't some...
So what does the current value mean?
The current value is whatever is determined by the Fed or anyone else.
How would they go about determining what the current value is? How would they go about determining that?
Now that I actually don't know, because that gets into rather deep. I would say deep, but it gets to economics, like who actually does what. But still, it's something that is provided by a servicer, and this servicer happens to be the government itself and the people who are therein that are providing that service. That's all I'm trying to say. Now you can say that's not technically a service, or not technically, and okay, but still, that's what's going on.
So you said there that you got a little upset at my providing of a brick of cocaine for some Monero. Why exactly are you upset about me giving and making drugs to people?
Well, I'm saying this. I'm really upset. To try to point out, like, be careful doing that, because I mean, I don't have any moral compunction against that or anything like that. Like, you do what you gotta do, I guess. But it don't really upset me. It was more of a concern than me being like But yeah, cocaine, man, it's fun.
Do you think the government would be just in stopping me from being a drug dealer?
Well, that gets into the idea that about existing laws, like with drugs, like drug dealing, drug possession. I'm against, like, what you would call the war on drugs. People should have it should be decriminalized for personal use of amounts for own drugs, things like that. But when it comes to, like, let's say somebody providing, an actual product like cocaine or marijuana, then if they're doing, especially if they're doing it as a business, not just doing it as simple trade, like, growing a few plants, then it kind of gets into that. What's the motive for them doing it? Is profit motive. They want to make as much, make as much monetary gain as they can, and they're going to do any way to maximize that. And so there has to be, in my opinion, regulations and safeguards put in place, because people are consuming those things that are being produced by those who are seeking to maximize the amount of profit that they're trying to make.
So you said there that you want to legalize it for personal use, not for trading, because there's like the profit motive in there. But really, every person is driven by a profit motive at all times. Everybody wants psychic profit whenever they trade anything.
Again, you're conflating the idea with profit with, like, wages and
No. When did I do that? I didn't mention wages benefit there.
I know, but you're conflating it with that idea, like, well, everybody's a capitalist, everyone's a profiteer, and that's just not really the case. I mean, they're doing it for their own personal consumption, not for a private enterprise.
Yeah, that's their psychic profit. That's the profit they gain from putting in the productive efforts into creating the cocaine. They profit from the use of that cocaine.
I mean, psychic profit, like, what is that?
So, profit is defined as when you raise yourself in your value scales. There's probably a more precise definition somewhere in Man, Economy, and State, but, like, that's good enough for the use of this, for the purposes of this discussion here. So, because value is all subjective, it's entirely within your head, we call it a psychic profit. It's not, because the classical economists and Keynesians and all that socialist manner, they put far too much emphasis on money, right? They say, okay, a profit is when you make money. Money's not the only way you can make a profit. Profit is all to do with value, because I can value something more than money, so I'd want to gain that over money.
Well, I mean, like, I don't want to open it up. Like, I mean, I'm a very dictionarily defined type of person. Yeah, Liquid Zulu is embarrassing you. I guess you do have some interesting takes. I'll tell you that. No, I just seen on my phone a comment. It's precious. But let me see. Let's define profit.
I mean, like, the Google definition will probably be informed by unsound economics, so I would really go with an Austrian definition, yeah, because, I prefer sound economics to unsound economics. I care about truth that way.
We all say that, I guess. A financial gain, especially the difference between amount earned and amount spent in buying, operating, and producing something. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That is it. But if you want to say it's something else, like many people, not necessarily you, but many people on the ANCAP right, they want to try to redefine existing words to be something else to make their worldview work or be sensible. It's really strange to me. That's all.
Okay. You also said there that something to do with monopolies forming in anarchism. I want to really get that down because Rothbard has shown objectively that monopolies can only come about as a government grant, and there are many, many examples of this. So what would you think would be an example of perhaps a free market monopoly?
Free market monopoly. Let's say there's a part of the country and there's a particular large reserve of coal, and the only place you can get it, that coal that people need to heat their homes or whatever they need, and you can only get it from them. I don't know if that would be a natural monopoly. I'm not sure if that's how natural monopolies are defined, but it's just the idea. Like you're courting out. You can't.
I actually can bring up the classical definition of natural monopoly. It's something to do with when there is a high fixed cost in production, and it's long run total costs. Well, like it's basically when it's difficult for other competitors to come in, right? Because you need a high amount of volume of trade, and there's all these arguments about predatory pricing and whatnot.
Yeah, I think that's the actual definition of what's classically known as a natural monopoly. But a monopoly that I'm describing, well, I shouldn't say natural. Let's say like one that could arise on its own, as far as courting off like a large tract of land to have control over a single resource. And if you want to do business with them, you gotta pretty much pay the piper, whatever they want. And that could be looked at as a sort of monopoly in a so-called free market system, which I think free markets are an illusion.
Free markets are an illusion.
Yeah, they are. Because you always have one person in the transaction that has a bit more of an advantage over the other, even if it's just a little bit. So it's not really free in the absolute sense, but maybe in the technical sense that you mean, maybe it's free. But for me, it's like when people say free markets, it seems a little romanticized and idealistic what they usually mean.
A free market is defined as a society bereft of conflict.
A society bereft of conflict?
Mm-hmm. So basically, there's like a complete division of labor without people robbing from others or punching other people, stuff like that. Without consent, of course. No aggression, essentially.
You keep saying no aggression, but there are different types of aggression. It doesn't have to be straight up physical.
Aggression is defined as the initiation of conflict.
Right. And that conflict could be anything. It's like saying this piece of land...
Conflict means when two people are trying to implement the same scarce means towards contradictory ends.
So you have your own like sort of framework for what conflict is. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that makes sense to try to make your particular narrow understanding or narrow application to be the one and only valid in your. Conflict. What is this? Let's look it up. This is interesting shit.
You can also describe it as a conflict is specifically a dispute over. It's a normative dispute, we can say. Where one person is saying, no, this is how we should deal with this, and another person says, no, this is how we should deal with this. Specifically, normative disputes as it pertains to law, I should say.
As a noun, it's a serious disagreement or argument, typically a protracted one, the eternal conflict between sexes.
Right, but that's not the definition for natural law theory. Natural law theory is dealing with scarcity, so it's dealing with conflict in terms of scarcity.
Natural law theory. That narrows it down quite a bit, doesn't it? All of a sudden, this whole discussion comes down basically to disagreement of many different definitions, or some definitions at least, which seem pretty foundational to each one's understanding and worldview of each person. For me, it's really convenient that people want to try to change up definitions or use the not conflict.
Everybody needs to have precise definitions when they're formulating a political philosophy. Any philosophy, in fact, you need precise definitions. Even mathematics, when you're talking about things in mathematics, you need precise definition. And I can give you an example from the one that Walter Block uses in physics a lot. So if you hold two weights, at arm's length, arm T-posing, and you have two weights in your arms. In colloquial terms, you could say that you're doing a lot of work to keep those weights up. But in physics terms, work is defined as force times distance. And because the weights are not moving, you're not doing any work to them in the physics sense, because you need a specific definition of what work is. Similarly, for libertarian natural law, you have it that conflict has to be defined specifically, because it's a foundational definition here. So you need a specific definition of what it is, a praxeologic definition.
The problem with that T-pose example is that when you're holding up two balls like in a T-pose position, you are doing work. You may not be...
No, not in the physics sense. Not in the physics sense, you are not doing work. No work is being done to those weights, because they're not moving.
You're holding them up. But
right,
they're not moving because you're countering that. You're
in physics, work is defined as force times distance.
Well, you're applying an equal upward amount of force for work to keep the
No.
going back down.
You're not, because they're not moving.
They're trying to move down, but you're counteracting that by having to move your arms up.
Right,
from
but they're not moving.
But they're attempting to move. So you have the
okay.
You're balancing it out, yes, but you're still applying effort and work to hold them up. So that's what I'm saying.
Okay, in a colloquial sense, yes, you are working hard to keep those weights up.
I'm not saying it's hard, but I'm saying you're just working to hold it up.
In the physics sense, because they are not moving, work is defined as force times distance.
It can be. But
yes, it can be, and you need that precise definition in physics.
But I'm also saying that you're holding up balls as an act of force of work yourself, because if all of a sudden you relax, the balls fall to the ground, and so do your arm, to the side. That's what I'm saying. There's active effort makes canceling.
There is a force being applied to those weights. I agree that a force is being applied to those weights, but no work is being done to those weights.
Force is being done to those weights because they're actively trying to fall down.
Yes, force is being applied, but there is no work done.
Force is being applied, but there's no work done. Oh, okay. Whatever you mean, man. So is there any other topics or anything else? Or this has been like an hour and 40 minutes, and this has been an absolute blast.
I mean, if you don't want to do that anymore, I'm not got anything else set up here.
All right.
Ooh. We could do this. You said earlier that you would try to build a system built on effective outcomes. So how are you defining effective outcomes?
Well, it depends on what your goals are. My goals are, trying to make sure power doesn't concentrate in the hands of a relative few, either economically or politically, as it seems to be the case throughout history that tends to happen without certain checks balances in place to make sure that people don't, skew the system more and more in their favor. I don't know how you see it like that. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But I mean, that's mainly one of the core tenets of what I'm either promoting or advocating for. Just ideas to explore how to potentially do that. And you may have some ideas of your own, and I'd love to hear them.
Right. So if we don't want power to concentrate in the hands of a few, that would be a bad outcome. We wouldn't want some group that has carte blanche to dictate the law, right?
Well, to say bad can be subjective between person to person.
Right. But under your definition, if this is defined as a bad outcome and, a non-effective outcome, we could say, we wouldn't want, because we're not wanting power to concentrate in the hands of the few, we wouldn't want some small group which has the carte blanche to dictate the law, right?
Well,
because that group would definitely have a lot of power, wouldn't they?
I mean, it depends. If the power has a checks and balances, and they're elected, then it's to keep that unchecked amount of power in. Like you say, the president has a lot of power, but he has checks and balances in place to.
So do you think those
he can't just do whatever he wants to?
So do you think those checks and balances would be effective in stopping them from unduly exercising their so that they don't really have a whole lot of power?
It would definitely improve that situation to keep them from having as much unchecked unbalanced power that they would have otherwise.
Right. So, let's just take the US, for example. If there was something in the US Constitution that said, oh, I don't know, let's just take some random example. The right to bear and keep arms shall not be infringed. If they had something so clear as that, the checks and balances would stop them from infringing on the right to keep and bear arms, wouldn't they?
So what was the last part you broke up? You're a little dizzy.
All right, yeah. So if there is something in the U.S. Constitution that said something along the lines of, the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, these checks and balances would stop the U.S. government from infringing on the right to keep and bear arms, wouldn't they?
Yeah, but at the same time, it also says a well-regulated militia. So
I'm just giving a hypothetical here. If there was something which said that in the U.S. Constitution, that would the checks and balances would stop the president from infringing on the right to bear arms, wouldn't it?
Yeah, ideally it would keep laws from being passed. That way.
You know what? Actually, I just remembered that actually is in the U.S. Constitution. There's a line which says the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. But wait a minute. Yeah, they did actually infringe on the right to keep and bear arms. So why didn't the checks and balances work?
Well, I'm not saying they're perfect, but they're there. I mean, the laws are constantly being challenged.
Well, you said that the checks and balances would stop this from being power concentrated in the hands of the few.
I said it would help to stop those or reduce the likelihood of that from happening.
It doesn't seem to have reduced it a whole lot, though, because this is very clear in the Constitution. I can take another example as well. The Fifth Amendment. Actually, income tax is a violation of the Fifth Amendment because you have to report on all your incomes. You are being forced to be a witness against yourself, which is in direct violation of the Fifth Amendment. Income tax has been around for over a century now, I think, in the US. Checks and balances, again, didn't stop that.
Well,
these checks and balances seem quite useless.
I'm not a constitutional, deep constitutional expert to argue on it. I have heard conversations in the past between people talking about these matters, and there is definitely nuance and technicality in this particular conversation. This is definitely not mine.
There's nuance and shall not be infringed?
Well, actually, there is, but I'm not an expert.
So what is the nuance and shall not be infringed?
Because I'm not
written in bold, double underlined.
I'm trying to tell you that because I'm not a constitutional scholar, with the understanding that they have, these conversations I've heard before, I can't really assuredly give you a solid answer on that either way. So I mean, if
it really would take the work of an expert to somehow come up with a justification for why shall not be infringed actually means, well, sometimes you can infringe on them.
Because the law...
it takes an expert to understand that one.
Well, I guess so. Or take someone that's really reductive to try to say this is the case and that's it, no matter what, no context.
I mean, they said shall not be infringed. They didn't have an asterisk in there and said, unless, you want to infringe on them.
Well, it's that word infringement. I remember something about that word infringement having different contexts as well. Like I said, I'm not an expert on that particular topic about guns and ownership and what can constitute infringement and not infringement. As long as you don't break the law, then that's not infringement.
What's your opinion? Let's just get your opinion down. Do you think it would be? Do you think it would be the case where if you were to, arrest a bunch of people in some compound because they're manufacturing weapons, do you think that would be an infringement of the right to keep and bear arms?
Potentially. Depends on how the law is written.
Yeah, wow. Actually, I just remembered back to that whole Waco siege thing. That's what they were doing, and that's why they were raided by the ATF. So it seems they did infringe on the right to keep and bear arms there. I'm trying to remember back. That was actually done by the U.S. government. Yes, the ATF is an agency of the U.S. government.
I understand.
It seems those checks and balances kind of broke down there a little bit, didn't they?
I mean, I don't know why you go on this little tirade, but I said the government's perfect or people are perfect or the system's perfect, and bad things do happen, and we got to hold people to account when they do happen, and that's what.
Oh, so it'll hold them to account.
Society does.
But I mean, it seems like it's not held them to account for taxation, the income tax specifically, or the Waco siege.
Well, like I said, the system's not perfect. And I'm not a utopia.
But you said that that bad outcomes, whatever the term you used was, you said that it would be a bad outcome to have it where there is power concentrated in the hands of few. But it seems like these checks and balances, which were supposed to stop power from being concentrated in the hands of the few, hasn't worked in the slightest. So the government, that's the real power there.
It has.
That's power concentrated in the hands of the few. So it would be a bad outcome to have government. So therefore anarchy.
No, that's super reductive. Come on, you can do better than that. No, I said it wasn't perfect, and it is an ongoing process, and people do get held accountable. So it isn't like people never get held accountable or something like that. So that's just clearly not the case. People do get, when they get their pinky caught, and there's evidence for that, they get in trouble. I think during the Waco, I'm going to have to re-review the Waco incident
I
to
mean,
know about it.
we don't even have to talk
People,
about Waco. Nobody's been punished for income tax, and that's a direct violation of the Fifth Amendment.
I mean, self-reporting, that's not the same as that assumes
You're
that
being forced to be a witness against yourself.
In a crime.
Yeah, the supposed, under positive law, it would be a crime to avoid taxes. They're saying, no, you have to report all your income. So you're being forced to be a witness against yourself.
If you're reporting your income and you're not breaking the law and you're not skirting the law, not cheating the taxes, then you're not breaking the law, and therefore you're not really doesn't really apply.
But you are being forced to be a witness against yourself, because you are being forced to report on all the taxes, on all the income that you are getting. So you're being a witness against yourself. That is a violation of the Fifth Amendment.
In the court of law.
In the court of law, what?
In the court of the law of the United States, when you go, let's say you go to court, you can't witness against yourself while you're in court.
Or at all. No. It's that you're never allowed to. They are never allowed to force you to be a witness against yourself.
Well, if you're witness against yourself, that it entails you actually speaking against yourself while you're being accused of a crime. And,
right. So, you have to report on your activities as it pertains to taxable income. You have to report on that. So you are being a witness of what your taxable income is, and you're providing that to the feds. And they say, if you don't do this, we'll lock you in a cage. This is a violation of the Fifth Amendment.
No, it's your interpretation of it, for sure. I mean, like I said, I have to look
what's your alternative interpretation, then?
Well, like I said, I have to look at it to be absolutely sure what the law says exactly, because I don't have a photographic memory. So I got to see what that says exactly to see if what you're saying is true. But at the moment, do I actually have an actual rebuttal for what? Like, let's say it is true, absolutely. Do I have an absolute rebuttal other than this? Like I said, the system isn't perfect. I'm not a utopiast. We try. It's an attempt to try to reduce the amount of those so-called bad outcomes as much as possible, which it attempts to really try to do. And it's not perfect. It's an ongoing process.
Oh, here's another thing I've just seen in the, because I just brought up the text of the Fifth Amendment. It says, private property shall not be taken for public use. And there's a thing called eminent domain, where they take private property for public use. So, nobody's ever been punished for doing eminent domain in the US.
Well, legally, since we're speaking constitutionally, we're speaking legally, and legally speaking, money is the government's property, technically. Now, you can disagree with that all you want, but...
No. I'm talking about, like, if I have a house, the government can say, no, we want to build a highway through here, so give us your house, eminent domain. Bitch.
Yeah, that's why it's written in the Constitution, which is conflictory. I mean, it does sound conflictory.
Yeah. They are violating the Constitution there.
So then you gotta get rid of that fucking clause, which I don't really like it.
Get rid of the Constitution, but like the point was,
get rid of the whole thing. Get rid of the whole thing, because
but you were saying
get rid of the whole thing.
So get rid of the Fifth Amendment then. But you were saying that the checks and balances were supposed to keep
the Fifth
from being power concentrated in the hands of the few. But this is them exercising power in contravention of the Constitution.
Let's see what the Fifth Amendment says.
Says
no person against capital or crime unless on a presentment, indictment, or a grand jury, except in cases arising of land or naval forces. So it's a bit more nuance to this than what you're leading on. That's
you see those semicolons there. Nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor shall private property be taken for public use.
It says unless under grand jury or indictment.
What?
Or did you refer to the other amendment?
I'm talking about the end part.
Well, it says unless you're under grand jury or indictment.
So do you think there's grand jury and indictment for?
Well, no, it's in the Fifth Amendment.
For all
the
end part of it.
I'm looking at the whole thing.
No person shall be held to answer for capital or otherwise infamous crime unless in the presentment or indictment of grand jury. That I'm talking about another section of it.
Well, the whole thing wraps around no person shall be held to answer for
There's a
capital
semicolon.
or otherwise. Semicolon, fine, but it's still in there. It says unless on a presentment or indictment of grand jury.
Yes.
No
They should not be held to answer for a crime unless under the presentment of a grand jury.
I mean, I don't like. What are you trying to?
That's referring to the.
You speak in circles.
That's referring to they cannot be held to answer for crime unless under the presentment of a grand jury.
Yeah, they go.
The criterion for the criterion for private property being taken without public use is saying unless there's just compensation. But just compensation is exactly that compensation which the person agrees to, which is not the case in. What was fucking something domain? So I can't remember the term anymore. And that's what they're doing when they're saying, right, we want to build a highway here. We're going to give you, $10 for your house or whatever, and you're going to accept it, or else we're just going to fucking kick you out anyway. Right? That's not just compensation. Just compensation is if the property owner says, yeah, okay, I agree to that. That's just compensation.
Well, the property owner says, I want $1 billion cajillion dollars for this 1 acre.
Then that would be just compensation.
Okay. That kind of number is just.
And so nobody has ever been punished for eminent domain, though, when it's in violation here. Nor have they been punished for the income tax when it's in violation here.
I have to, in order for me to give a competent, realistic answer, but that's not arguing from ignorance or just not knowing. I would have to actually look into that deeply myself and talk to some people who actually know the constitutional law and how it's interpreted and how it's actually done to give you a reasonable answer of what's going on. But like I said, even if that were the case, it all comes back to it's not a perfect system. Nobody said it was a perfect system. Except I'm not implying or.
I mean, earlier you said it was pretty damn close to a perfect system.
No. I said it was close to the system. Close to the system I would prefer, but doesn't mean it's exactly.
No, the term was ideal system. I got it written down here.
Maybe you took it down wrong. But
no, it was my question. I said I was asking, is the ideal system of social organization democratically run? Yada yada yada. It would look kind of similar to the U.S.
Yeah, something similar to the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Similar. Doesn't have
so
to be
the U.S. is similar to an ideal system.
Similar. It's not perfect.
Right, but it's close to being perfect.
Maybe 80%, 70%. Who knows?
Yeah, that's seems pretty fucking far from it, though.
Well, it can be if you think that 1 or 2% is needed to be counted as what's considered close to 100%. Depending on you. Like I said, it all depends on you or me and how we look at it.
I think we're done here, unless you have anything else to add.
No, I mean, I had a good time, and I appreciate talking to you, and I hope you have a wonderful day and weekend and all that good stuff, and I'll see you
too. See ya.
Yep.
Fun. Yeah, see you later, guys.